Hi, welcome to EnergySpin Fireside Chat Growth Series.
Good afternoon from my side. My name is Marko Kuokkanen and here is my colleague
Marko Koski. We are EnergySpin. We bring together startups and scale-ups from all around the world to our global ecosystem of energy tech.
Today we start with our alumni network and we start with the funding.
Two excellent guests here tonight. We have Instagrid and HiTech Gründerfonds. Now, first Instagrid, tell about your story a little bit in short.
Hi, my name is Andreas. I'm one of the co-founders of Instagrid, and we provide portable power for professionals. If you imagine, around 2 billion people in the world work in a mobile fashion. You just think about construction workers or event technology, and today the solution they are left with is from the 20th century, which is a genset that's driven by gasoline or diesel, which is actually the most expensive way of generating mobile electricity, which is inconvenient, uncomfortable, and in the end, it's also polluting. We take portable power to the 21st century by offering a lightweight battery system that is entirely tailored to the needs of professionals. You can carry it in one hand, it fits any size of trunk, and it actually outputs grid-like power, 3.6 kilowatts, so you can power any large machinery. It's robust and waterproof, and it comes with enough energy to bring you to your workday. We are going to introduce our system into the market in the next month, together with large brand partners that we acquired as our customers. And for that, we now raised more than 10 million euro. And we are currently building the execution machine, meaning we are doing the industrialization of the product plus the entire supply chain. And we are setting up the digital marketing and the front end to our digital customers that we want to reach with our own brand. We are now 20 people, growing until 40 people until the end of 2020.
So one of the people behind you is backing you up is HiTech Gründerfonds. So Lucille, could you tell us a little bit about your financing principles?
Yes, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucille, and I'm a principal at HiTech Gründerfonds. HiTech Gründerfonds is one of the most active seed investors in Europe and in Germany. It was basically created 2005 out of a crisis, a bit similar to what we're experiencing today. In 2005, after the dot-com burst, basically, the German government and the German industry came together in order to set up a fund and a solution for funding for young technology companies. So we're investing basically across industries. We're a public-private partnership, as said. We're investing out of three funds, or we have three funds under management as of today, in total 900 million euros. And we're basically here to give the first capital to companies developing new technologies, new business models in order to solve significant problems for their customers. And as said, we do that across all industries. So we have a life science team, we have a software team, and we have my team, which is industrial tech team, where we basically, out of which we invested into Instagrid end of 2008.
Interesting. To HiTech Gründerfonds, when you invested with other few investors to Instagrid, to follow up, you did a couple of investments, right? You had a follow-up investment. How you make the decision to go on further, and what was the total time frame when you started looking into Instagrid as an investment opportunity? And could you elaborate a little bit more about that one? And when you first got to know Instagrid?
So basically, the story started when the founders actually got in touch with us via two different channels. On the one hand, email with a pitch deck, just like we got a lot of investment opportunities. On the other hand, we also met them physically on the conference, because we are very much active also on conference in order to meet people directly. I think that was the Bits and Bretzel conference in Munich. And we basically got in touch very fast. I was in the lead at the time as well. I really liked the investment proposal. Also from the beginning, it was, I think, in September, and we made the overall investment process within 3 months. We could, during that time, find an expert, look at the technology, talk to the clients. I would say what really was important for us at the time is the fact that the customers were really excited. So Instagrid didn't have a product yet, or very first prototype, you could say, and big brands and big clients were really excited about the product and about the team. So I said due diligence went through, investment committee went through. After 3 months, we were basically on board. We needed a little bit more capital than we can actually do. So we basically searched into our network at the time and found one business angel and one family office that, with the background, actually really fit well Instagrid as a product, as a project, and as a team. And I think it worked really well. So the seed financing was at the end really not complicated and fast. The benchmark that we have, I mean, we have made around 600 investment myself only. Of course, we have a team of 50 investment managers. But this was a really short period of time with regards of the time between the seed financing and the Series A. So the execution has been very fast, has been fully on plan, if not ahead of the plan, and of course that really enabled us to raise another uncomplicated funding round, I would say, with the Series A. And of course, we had to promise them a couple of things. At the time in May, we didn't have everything. We didn't have all the milestones. Everything was going well and was basically on plan, but we were not through. So we had to promise them a couple of things. And actually, once we really kicked off the fundraising in September, we could deliver. The team could deliver on most of the important aspects. And that really, I think, gave a boost to the fundraising. And I'm very happy about the 2 further investors we could win for the round. I think the commitment and the follow-on investment of existing investors also played a role. But I think delivering on the milestone, on the product development and the team development and on the commercial side, really enabled us to get a lot of attention. And at the end of the day, this is what you need if you want to, as a team, close a round in a satisfactory way. You need more investors that are basically interested. So you need to create competition on that side as well. So we try to be sparring partner in that process for Instagrid, and overall, I would say it worked quite well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have to follow the rest of our questions because it's quite many of those answered already. But question to the Instagrid: that how do you see it from your side, and what could you describe? What was the most, let's say, that important factor to secure the financing?
Okay, I'm happy that we are not talking about our entire funding experience, because if you talk about seed round and Series A, this would basically block the entire day. So Series A, as Lucille already said, was quite straightforward. We already had trusted investors on board, which really helped. They also had a large network of investors. And we were already known to the community since we won awards like the Energy Award for the best energy storage startup in Europe and among the world. And of course, there was word of mouth already. So what we did, we basically made a list together with our existing investors, what kind of investors we wanted to discuss with, and then we met these investors at events because this is the easiest and most convenient way to get in touch with people. So Lucille already mentioned the family day of HTGF. We also took part of the tech tour events and the Eco Summit, which is great for that. And in the end, we ended up with a round that was threefold oversubscribed. So we actually had to choose the most suitable investors for us. And we basically decided for the ones that bring more to the table than just money. So they bring a network and they bring experience. I think the single most important thing that an investor is looking for is product market fit. And also studies of HTGF show that if you don't have product market fit, you're going to lose this game. So this is actually the first thing that everyone was asking for is, do you have customers? Do you have traction? And as already said before, we could already provide large contracts that were in negotiation with large brand partners that we acquired through the first year by just having a wooden box. So it was really a minimum viable product and nothing else, and made these already jump on the solution. And this made quite easy the rest of the discussion. Of course, if you are in Series A and somebody is giving you 8.5 million euros, it is quite an intense due diligence, and you cannot compare with the seed round. So this due diligence was blocking us for 2 entire months with multiple external assessors, and we had thousands of pages of documents that we created. But in the end, everything went well. So product market fit first. And the one thing that is joined with the product market fit is, are you actually solving a problem? So I used to work for corporate research before, and often it was like, you have a great solution that you just developed, and now you're looking for a problem. And an investor that's giving his money or the money of his limited partners certainly looks for somebody that really identified a problem where he or she has a solution to. One more important thing as well is that you don't operate in a specific niche. So investors, from our perspective, always wanted to see that we have a horizontal market. So actually, one of our investors was, one of the first questions he was asking was, what's your plan for world domination? So people really look for solutions that tackle problems across different verticals. And certainly one aspect, if you go with hardware and if it's a long journey until ROI, is the team and an experience. I think if we would have just dropped out of university with no experience in battery technology, we wouldn't have easily found investors. But since we have put millions of battery systems in the field during the last years, that was quite convincing to the investors as well.
So I have a question to the Instagrid. So what was actually the biggest reason why did you select HiTech Gründerfonds?
Us before we found them, and then we were dragged into fundraising. We founded a company in February. We were dragged into fundraising in March, which was crazy. And then we had the first customers, and these first customers actually also wanted to invest into the company. So we had a lot of strategic people from the beginning that showed interest because they knew that there's a problem where we have the solution for. The problem with a strategic investor from the beginning is that there is not much more room to go into other directions to develop the country in an independent the company in an independent way. So we kept on searching, and in the end we decided for HiTech Gründerfonds because they have a very good reputation. Of course, you always decide on persons, so we also decided for our investment partner Lucille. And the HiTech Gründerfonds gave a very good offer with a very good network, and they also brought the 2 co-investors to the table. So the full package was just the best that we could get.
If you go back to the investment thesis you're having as an investor, as a German investor, how many of you have quite good number of investments on your? How you see it for the investment? Do you have what kind of thesis you have, and how did you? Of course, HiTech is one of the name applies to that one. It's HiTech investments sort of. But what other kind of principles you're having in your investments and in your funds? If Lucille could answer that.
So actually, we're as I said, we're investing across all industries, and one could say we're pretty opportunistic in the way we invest. What we do is that we build an investment thesis per company. So my team is, for example, the industrial tech team is active in different sectors. I have more background in the energy sector, but I also have in the portfolio a company in the field of automation and sensoric, for example, for different applications. So we are pretty much generalistic, which basically do prevent us a little bit from, setting up, an investment thesis for the fund as such. What we basically believe in is basically innovation. So doing new things, solving problem in a new way, in a more efficient way, and in a more sustainable way. This is basically what we are looking at. And our focus is basically teams and entrepreneurs who have basically a large vision and the ambition of also, building the next German champions in a way, and having a very sustainable USP. So this is our investment thesis generally, I would say.
Do you invest in any restricted area? Is quite often the investments go closer to, let's say, areas you are local and you know better, for example. Any cross-border investments or European or some sort of a focus?
Sure. So focus is also Europe. So we do invest in European company as long as they do have a certain link to Germany. And in the midterm, it should lead to a certain presence in Germany. We also basically also invest taxpayers' money here. So we take this into account. Company needs to be maximum 3 years old from foundation, and they shall not have raised more than 500,000 euro. So these are seed criteria in a way. This is how we define seed, and that's the mandate that we have for deploying the funds.
So basically, you have an office in Instagrid in Helsinki as well, and you've been building now. How difficult is to find people because you talk about you have to have certain knowledge and know-how and experience in the business, and it's a high-tech business. So finding right people and how to expand is the question I would like to ask.
So yes, we have an office in Helsinki, and the satellite office exists even before we had the first funding. So we were actually paying this out of our own pocket for a couple of reasons. So first of all, we want to be considered a European company. So we want to build a European company that will have satellites across Europe, because we just think limiting us to Germany or the DACH region, how you call it in Germany, is too narrow. That's the first thing. So we wanted to have satellite offices. The satellite office in Helsinki has also several reasons. First of all, we found a perfect first employee there that has complementary skills to what we have. So Sebastian and I have a tech background. We are quite good in business as well, but we wanted to have somebody that creates the face of our brand. So really somebody that is experienced in brand marketing and even brings a different angle into the company. So not coming from a tech company, but coming from consumer brands. And there we found Soile, which was the perfect fit. Finding the right people is quite difficult when it comes to engineering positions here in the region of Stuttgart. So there are a lot of engineering companies here. If you just think about the large ones like Bosch or Mercedes or Porsche, so they suck up all the engineers that come from universities. What we have seen so far is that people with the right mindset tend to start with a startup with higher risks, but more freedom and so they tend to start working with a startup, taking higher risks, but trading this risk for just having a purpose and following and developing faster than they would in a large corporate. Because in a startup, if you are one of the first persons in a startup, and I think Soile could confirm that, you are basically also kind of a founder, and you have to do a lot of decisions. You have to learn as fast as the founders, so your learning curve is quite steep. And this is different in a corporate world where you get introduced quite slowly. So the first 2 years you listen and learn before you really do your own decisions. And that's completely different for a startup. So at the beginning, we found a lot of, let's say, junior people that were willing to jump into this adventure. And now with the seed round closed, of course, we also find people that have to pay mortgages for a house because we also can pay salaries that they would request. But still, there are some positions that are not really easy to find in the Stuttgart area, which is engineering, of course, because there's a lot of competition, and which is also all the digital people. And that's another point why we went to Helsinki, because the access to digital people from Helsinki that came out of the university there or that travel from Tallinn is quite easy. And that's why Soile is setting basically up the office there with the entire digital marketing team.
I think I have a question to all of you. So we are, let's say, going through very unusual times at the moment, and I think you had a great plans for what to do on 2020. And how do you actually see this, let's say that your current plans and go to market, let's say, phase that do you make any changes or do you see it that business as usual or how do you see the situation? I think if you Andreas, start.
Of course. So this Corona crisis, of course, also brings changes to Instagrid and to our time plan. In the end, first of all, we were extremely lucky to have the closing before the crisis started. So we closed in January, and basically from February, the world went into a shutdown. So we have enough money, and we actually raised more money than we needed because whenever you build a hardware product, there will be hiccups if it comes to certification, if it comes to starting the mass production, ramping up. So we actually asked for more money than we needed, and so we should be safe for the next time. One more thing that's great for us is we are before market introduction. So we are not going to have delays here because we are not shipping products at the moment. But of course, our market entry will suffer from short delays because, for example, there are lockdowns in our supply chain. There are lockdowns in our service providers like certification offices. But the beauty for us is that the first target market is construction. And so whenever there's a crisis, what the governments do afterwards, they usually they just put out stimulus packages to just fire on the economy again. And many of these go into construction, go into infrastructure, and this is actually where Instagrid starts. So we are pretty much looking forward to the start of our production and to introduction in the market.
I think a few more questions, and if you Lucille could tell about not only from the perspective of Instagrid, but also from your whole perspective, what your investments are doing at the moment, how you see the investments.
Yeah, sure. So with regards to, our fund was created in the aftermath of a crisis, so our mandate hasn't changed with this crisis. We're still an active investor. A couple of weeks ago, we had our first online investment committee where basically all the teams presented online. It actually worked very well. So we had 3 investment committees in a row because we have basically 3 different teams. And it worked really well. 3 times we even had this high net worth individuals event, the private investor circle event online a couple of weeks ago as well. It worked as well quite well. We got the first commitment for investment in the portfolio. So with regards to our activity and investments, we're still working. So more or less business as usual. One thing that of course shall not be underestimated is the fact that at some point for new investments, we will have to meet the founder teams and go there and see their company. And of course, we can do part of the due diligence online. At some point, we will probably basically, of course, need some type of physical meeting in order to do a new investment. But this is not. I mean, I think this is not going to be an issue anymore. Basically, to meet a couple of people with respecting certain distance. So I think it was not a disruption up to now, and I don't think it's going to be one in the future. I think with regards to funding, of course, VCs and funds basically have certain focus on their own portfolio and basically take a look at, make plans with them in order to secure the funding as long as possible, and they have a certain attention drift on their portfolio. However, I think in the last crisis there was not that much funds closed in the past years and that much money in the funds to be deployed as today. So of course funds have a drift in their attention and focus on their portfolio, but they still have to deploy funds, and therefore I also think that funding is not going to experience a huge disruption for good companies in the end.
You perhaps look through different lenses at the moment, perhaps some of the investments, because changing, for example, tourism industry or something.
Of course. So
really doing well. So that's happening perhaps.
Yeah. So with regards to the portfolio and the impact on the portfolio, of course, it's our portfolio is very much diversified. So you of course have different effects. So you have life science company developing vaccination, being a potential list to solve the corona crisis, basically getting funds from one day to the other without asking for it in order to speed up the development. This is also happening. You have also an increase in the utilization of digital tools, not only talking about school apps, but also, of course, collaboration platform for engineering are picking up. So there is a positive impact, and there is, of course, some negative impact, which I believe is more of a lag. So you have delays in supply chains that you need to deal with. I have not experienced in the industrial tech portfolio disruption in the supply chain yet. So we're more dealing with delays. That's the one thing. The second thing is order books. Of course, some orders are being put on hold. So all companies relying on large industrial partners currently not ordering are not making revenues, are not selling. And actually within the energy space, what we witness, at least among 3 of my portfolio company, is that they are dealing with very, very much long-term projects, right? So if you're talking about, selling a digital or sensoric solution for wind turbines, for example, the turbines that you're delivering today have been developed 2 years ago, and they are still being built up right now. I mean, it's part of the construction area or linked to the construction area, but the energy space is quite resilient, is my feeling. And of course, there will be a lag in certain projects that are not being developed as fast as they could be. But in the end, I think the impact is also not a disruptive one there. So.
I have a question to the Instagrid. So you participated to the startup accelerator program or program. So how do you see what is the importance for a startup to participate on these kind of programs?
Soile, do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure, I can. Hi, my name is Soile. And I work at Instagrid in the function of business development and marketing. So we decided to participate in the EnergySpin Accelerator to further understand the opportunities that we have with our technology. So as previously already discussed, our focus is in replacing the gensets used in construction. However, of course, we want to know where else could we go in the future. And I think that's also an important task for any startup, to understand what is the long-term plan, where we could go and how we could utilize our technology in the future. So EnergySpin was a great opportunity for us to assess what kind of opportunities there might be within the energy sector, to meet companies within different verticals within energy. And we actually got a confirmation for one of our hypotheses or product ideas that we had that could be developed in the future. So again, we are not talking about something that we would take on next year, perhaps. But looking down for going 2 or 3 years from now, so we have ideas to how to develop products further on.
Thank you. It's been excellent discussions. Perhaps if you want to say last sentence each of you, or something to, for example, what you would recommend for the founders before they have about their fundraising experience, or just last sentence each of you. It's been an amazing and great discussion, and just wishing you good luck on the future. But just last, let's say, hints for the people.
Or if you have advices to the startups who are, let's say, fighting to get some funding, what is your advice for them?
All right, I can start with that. So to all founders that think about fundraising, my first advice would be do the fundraising yourself. Don't rely on consultants or others that want to take your money. This is also showing weaknesses to the potential investors. If you don't have a partner or a co-founder in your team that can do the fundraising, you have to find one. The second thing I would recommend is choose your investors wisely, and choose their understanding and their track record for your business over the money and the valuation that they give you.
I would ask one question first. How big percentage of your time has been gone to the fundraising of your total experience as CEO or a founder?
Let's put it this way. So the time that went into fundraising for seed funding was quite extensive. So we started in March and we closed in December. And I think 30% of my time went into fundraising, honestly. For the Series A, it was different. So we started in May, but we really just started the due diligence in September. And we closed in December again. So I would say it was more 15%, but it was I was totally blocked for 2 months, and my co-founder Sebastian as well.
Good. Thank you. Lucille.
So I think I would take on something that Andreas said earlier, and that's product market fit. Indeed, we made a study with regards to our past investments, and indeed, although we are investing in technology companies and actually accepting a technology risk pretty high compared to Series A investors, the reason for failing is mostly never technology, or the technology has failed, but most of the time product market fit. And so it means that even if you are in the seed phase, you should know exactly where you stand with regards to that, and you should know exactly, you should basically be able to quantify very well basically your value added to the customer. And of course, if it's a seed investor, it would accept that over the time you will have in the seed phase to validate these assumptions. But if it's a Series A investor, of course you will have to bring some numbers and some KPIs on this topic, and that's very important. And that's probably one of the most important things, and founders really have to prepare well.